Hello and welcome to the BA Zone Live. My name is Kathleen, and tonight we're going to talk about something that's a little bit different than the other stuff we usually talk about, because usually everybody talks about getting really good with the tools of the trade, right? With learning all of the skills, getting really good with requirements gathering, writing the requirements, dealing with stakeholders, all that thing. All very important. But supposing you're doing all that, right? You're awesome with your tools, you've nailed down requirements gathering, you know everything about the job inside and out, and yet you're still not where you think you should be. There might be a good reason for that. And that is what we're going to talk about tonight. These are the secrets of success for being a business analyst. These are the things that most people don't talk about. They're sort of the fuzzier, softer skills that a lot of people don't stop to think about, but they could have a huge impact on your career. So we're going to talk about them here tonight, just for you, because that's what we do for you. So hang on, we're going to run the intro, and then we're going to get this party started. Hang in there. All right, so like we said, you have nailed down requirements gathering. You know everything inside and out. You know how to write requirements. You're running those stakeholder meetings. You're doing that user acceptance. You have got it all down. You're dealing with your developers, the business people, and you've got all of the balls in the air. You're getting everything done, and yet you don't feel like your career is quite where it needs to be. There's something else you need to stop and think about, because while nailing the tools is vitally important, understanding how to get in there and do the business requirements, vitally important, even understanding the industry that you're in is super important too, but you've got subject matter experts for that, so that's sort of a 50-50 kind of thing. So if you are still struggling, if you are still not feeling like you're getting exactly where you want to be, we got you covered. Because there's a couple of things that don't get a lot of attention, but they make or break our careers in the long run, because we deal with everybody, right? We deal with the customers, we deal with the business, we deal with management, we deal with stakeholders, we deal QA, developers. I mean, there's nobody that isn't a part of our projects, because our projects touch everybody, right? In a good way. So what is it, once you've got everything else nailed down, that can make all the difference? Well, let's talk about that. Okay. I'm way down here. I should probably have made this bigger. I'll do that right now while we're talking. But the first one is trust, right? Trust is a big deal. Trust is super important as you're going through your process. You've got to be looked upon as somebody who is above and beyond everything else, completely ethical, right? And here, I'm just going to make me a little bigger here. Hello. That's the magic of technology. Right, so all right, let's start with what is truth, right? Truth generally is accepted to mean it's the firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of somebody or something, right? So everything here hinges on how people perceive you and your actions, right? So we're talking about ethical behavior. We're talking about being honest and direct with people. Basically, it's that old nugget of, can you wake up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror, and feel good about what you're doing, right? If you're able to do that, then you're generally in a pretty good position. But you need to be constantly reevaluating and checking yourself to make sure that you are living up to your own standards on those kinds of things. One of the big tripping points for this is politics, right? Office politics. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be around. And sometimes it can feel like the smart move is to align yourself with one side or the other. But if you can possibly avoid that, if you can possibly just pull yourself out of it and be Switzerland, be neutral, right? Because you need to work with everybody. You don't want to get into the game playing. You don't want to get into the land grab. You just want to be seen as the sole person sometimes in the office that maybe is not playing those games, that is not going to choose sides, is not going to get in the dirt with anything, and is just going to come in and do their job and be adult and respectful with everybody that they encounter. If you can do that, and it's the kind of thing that as we sit here talking about it, you're like, well, of course, that's easy. It's not a problem. I can do that. But it's a lot harder in the moment. It's a lot harder day to day, because sometimes it just feels easier to go along, or, okay, this person is somebody you work with a lot, so, maybe you blow off somebody else to give them attention. And it's not something that you're doing from a bad point, right? You're not doing it from a deliberately dark side. Overstating it a little bit, but still, you get the point. you're doing it just because you're trying to survive in the world. And of course, that totally makes sense, but you do need to constantly be reevaluating that, because it is critical that you be seen as trustworthy across the entire business, the line of business, everybody that you're dealing with. Not only is it better for you, but it's also better for the business, right? It's better for the business because that way everybody's going to be honest and truthful with you, because that's the other side of this. If you are perceived as being honest and truthful, people will bring that back to you. So it's really important to have that honest look at yourself, and it's not so easy, but the nice thing is you don't have to involve anybody else. You can just take stock of yourself and say, could I be doing a little bit better job of this? Did I maybe get into, that discussion between two people that maybe I should have just stayed out of? You need to look at it, you need to think about it, and you just want to try really hard to do everything you can to come across as a trustworthy person, because that is going to be very important to your success in the long run. Does that make sense? I'm just doing a quick check here. Okay. I've got you up Periscope. Sometimes we have problems with but it looks like it's working tonight. So go ahead and comment if you'd like to. All right, so let's keep going. That one. So we've covered trust. Now let's go on to responsiveness. Whoops, wrong button. Okay, so responsiveness is a little bit easier, I think, to achieve. So this is all about providing people with timely interactions. Okay, so whether that is a request for information or a meeting or a question getting answered, whatever it is, the tripping point here for a lot of people is not so much responding to somebody. It's more about feeling like they have to just quickly say something. And it's way more important to be timely and helpful than it is to just respond immediately. So you want to look at this as timely is more important than immediate. Okay, because maybe they've asked you for something, or they've asked you a question or whatever. Don't feel like you have to pull it out of the top of your head, because it may not be there. If it's there, great, go for it. But if it's not, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm not sure about that. Let me check on it and get back to you, and then make sure you do. It's that follow-up in a timely manner. Don't make them come to you twice or 3 times, right? So you want to be honest with them, make a note of it, and say, get back to you, and make sure that you do. If you can give them a timeline, go ahead and do that, but try to get back to them within 24 to 48 hours maximum. The shorter that window, the better. But again, this is not, all these things that we're talking about tonight are not one-offs. All of these things that we're talking about tonight are cumulative, okay? You got to think of the onion in this situation, okay? Being responsive with somebody once, being truthful with somebody once is not enough. You have to repeat it. It has to be a repeated behavior. It has to be just ingrained in everything that you do. And as long as you are doing that, as long as you are coming across that way, then that's where other people start to perceive you that way. And that's where people start to feel like, okay, this person I don't have to worry about. They're not trying to stab me in the back. They're not playing games with me. I can work with this person and know that we're going to collaborate in a very positive manner. So you've got to keep working on that all the time. It's got to be a constant process. So with the responsiveness part of it, you want to make sure that what you say to them, when you say it, is very reliable and clear. Okay, you don't want people to have to wait too long. You don't want to phrase things in such a way that it feels like they're evading something, right? Or maybe you're hiding something. People are better at picking that up than you might think, and people are picking up on that subconsciously, even if the word untrustworthy is not coming to mind. It is ingrained in their brain if it happens enough times. So you want to be clear, direct. You want to make sure that they understand whatever your response is, and if not, then adjust it however you need to, so that they are clear with it and they have an understanding of what you're telling them. Make sure that you don't just talk, but that you listen, because that, believe it or not, that is a part of being responsive, is also the listening. You've got to listen to them. They've got to know that they're being heard. You've got to make sure that you are understanding correctly what it is that they're saying, because sometimes the way that they're phrasing something could go either way. And if you don't take that extra couple of seconds to verify it, you might, in all honesty, go and try to answer their question, but you've answered the question over here and they wanted to be over here. So that's our responsibility, right? Because it's our job. The key part of our job is communication. So we're going to deal with people who don't communicate as well, and that's fine. There's a lot of possible reasons for that, and the reasons don't matter. The reality is it's going to happen. So you want to make sure that you're giving them the time, you're giving them that safe space to communicate with you however they need to, that you are confirming that what they're requesting of you is what you think it is, and that you're getting back to them in a reasonable amount of time. All of those pieces together, repeated over time, again, feeds into their perception of you as being a responsive person, and that is super important. You want to make sure, too, that you're kind of keeping an eye on things. So wherever you can, if you see something coming, especially after you've been doing this for a while, you can start to anticipate who's going to have the question where, or what might come up, or where they might end up feeling confused about a certain approach that's being suggested as a solution for the business. So anticipate and be proactive about those kinds of things. Don't sit back and wait and go, well, nobody asked me, so I'm not going to say anything. Step up, and say, okay, so, does everybody understand this? Maybe just let me run through it one more time just so we're all on the same page, because sometimes people are not comfortable admitting that they don't completely understand something. And it's up to us to kind of pick up on that. And like I said, after you've dealt with people for a while, you'll start to understand and you'll start to remember, who is it that's a little bit more fuzzy on, maybe the data analytics or maybe on the security part of things. And so you can just take that extra time to run through it one more time in a slightly different way to make sure that they really got it. So that combination of anticipating and being proactive about stuff also feeds into this perception of you being responsive. And I mean, I know when people say perceptive, that sounds like a sort of a weak thing, well, it's not true, right? They're only perceiving that. But the perception can be truth too, and that's what we're shooting for here. We're shooting for these things to be truth about you and how you're interacting with everybody during the process of doing your job. Make sense? Okay, let's keep going. Actually, before we do that, this is a good time, since I'm breaking anyway, to remind you that you can find us in all the usual places. So if you want more information about a topic, if you have an idea for a topic, if you have something you want us to discuss on the show here, you can find us at thebazone.com, on Twitter at thebazone, Instagram, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. We're in all the places you would expect us to be. So always feel free to go ahead and reach out if you have a question, you want more follow-up, if there's one of the freebies that you're interested in, but you couldn't remember how to find it. Speaking of which, whoops, that's the wrong one. We do have the survey ebook available, so if you are still looking for that, it's thebazone.com/survey ebook. You can still get that. And if you ever are just looking for information or you want to reach out, you can always get to us at thebazone.com or Twitter at thebazone. Okay? All right. Now that bit of business is out of the way, let's go back to this. This one. All right, so awareness. This is the next big thing. This is the kind of thing that, again, needs to be repeated over time, needs to come for a while. But this is all on you. You need to make sure that you are aware of industry and economic shifts for your business. Differences, trends, right? Things that maybe the competitors are doing, or maybe there's been a shift in the market, and where things have been going down this path, maybe they're starting to veer off a little bit. It's our job to be aware of that, even if it's not directly tied to the projects that we're working on at the moment, because it's our job to be a little bit ahead of the curve, right? So we want to be ready before the need comes up. So by keeping an eye on things that are going on in the industry, stay on top of the news, read the business journals for the industry that you're in, talk to other VAs, right? Go to Facebook or wherever it is, come here and hang out and talk to folks. Whatever it is that works best for you, but make sure that you're staying a little bit ahead of the curve, that you're staying informed and aware and up to date, because that way, when the moment comes and somebody in a meeting says, this is going on and we've got to be on top of it, we've got to start looking at this, you're already there, right? You've already got stuff. Now, you're not doing this to brag or anything, but it gives you that leg up when those discussions start to happen, and then again, you're starting to be seen as more of a expert, which is what we are. Now, we've talked about this before, right? A lot of people like to try to push the BAs off as, note takers, and, they create a document and then we all move forward. But that's not what we do, right? I mean, that's a part of it, absolutely, but we are there to analyze. That's why it's in the title. And it's important that you take ownership of that and you stay on top of it and you make it your responsibility to make sure that you are up to date on this stuff. So keep an eye on this stuff, see what's going on. So a perfect case in point here, right? I have been talking to everybody in my world for quite a while now about security and ransomware and how easy it is for these things to blow up quickly. And I've seen it. I've been, in a couple of jobs in the past few years, I've actually seen it happen on smaller scales, but it's accelerating. This is happening. This has become a new point of attack that the bad people feel very safe and secure doing, and they're getting payoffs. So I have been kind of laying the groundwork for this for years now because I saw this coming. This is what I'm talking about. So because it's now in the news that like 23 towns in one state here in the U.S. just got hit today. I feel bad for them. I'm sure that they did everything that they could, but this is what's going on. But that's just an example. So if you're in healthcare, you want to stay on top of the fact that there's a shift coming, right? We know that there's a shift coming. We can see it happening. We don't know how it's all going to work out, but we know it's coming. So, it used to be, the healthcare companies, were in charge of everything, but now Amazon and Google are getting into it. Walmart is getting into it. There are mergers between players in the market that never used to play well together. So like CVS or what's the other one? Rite Aid, like the different pharmacies are now hooking up with different companies and aligning themselves that way. So if you're in healthcare, you need to stay on top of that and keep an eye on it and see what's coming out of that, what seems to be working, what doesn't, so that you're ahead of the curve on these kinds of things, because change is coming. One way or another, change is always coming, and it's our job to stay a little bit ahead of it. And whatever it is in your industry, it'll be a little bit different, but it's good to stay on top of that kind of stuff. Another layer of this one is skills, right? A few years ago, not everybody was walking around with these things in their pockets, but we all are now. And it's the people who saw that coming and got up to speed on what that was going to mean who were ahead of the game. We're in a better position. Frankly, they got the better jobs. They got the more money because they had that skill set ready to go. That's something else we need to do. And you can't look to your company to keep you up to date. Companies will generally, pay for some level of education or training or whatever, but they will only do for what they see as their perceived needs now. And if you go and say, well, we're, doing, mobile now, but I think, I want to go and learn more about VR, let's just say, or voice search, right? So like, I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but, my little, my little Google Assistant up there. And they may say, well, no, we're not going to pay for that because it's not important. Well, fine, that's their business decision, but it's on you to make sure that your skills are in the best place, and so that may have to come out of your pocket. Good news in the U.S. is you can usually work it as a business deduction on some level, but whether that's the truth or not. And the nice thing is that there are ways to do this kind of education for yourself without it costing money, right? Just costing some time. So however you go about it, you need to make sure that you are continuing to grow, you are continuing to build your skill set. Maybe it's not around technology like that. I always go to technology because I usually am working in software development. But whatever it is, whatever skill it is, maybe it's new software, or there's a new release coming out of the software you're using, or you're seeing where people have been using these tools pretty much in your industry, but lately there's these new players that people are starting to move over to. Well, you should go and learn as much as you can about those so that you are prepared in case that's what happens. Another way to look at the awareness thing is to be constantly monitoring stress, dissatisfaction levels, unspoken confusion about your products, your projects, wherever that is. Because for us, those types of things, and this might sound weird, but go with me for a second. Stress, dissatisfaction, and unspoken confusion actually is good, because that means that there are problems that need to be solved. So if you are being aware of those kinds of things, if you're keeping your ear to the ground and you're picking up on the vibrations, that, hey, customer support's getting a lot of complaints about this feature, or a lot of dissatisfaction around this feature that they used to like, or whatever it is, that is a problem waiting to be solved, and that's what we do best, right? So that's a good thing for us, because it's like, hey, that makes it very clear, hey, we need to go and look at this. And even if you can't get it onto the schedule as an official project, in your off time, you can kind of just keep an eye on it and do a little searching around to see, because sooner or later it will get to the crisis point. And again, if you have gotten yourself ready, if you've gotten the groundwork laid, you can dive in and go forward with that one so much faster than somebody who's going to be hitting it cold. And that's going to work for everybody, because it's going to work for the business, because they're going to get a solution faster. It's going to work for your users because they're going to get happy again faster. And it's great for your career, because you do that a couple of times, people see you as the go-to person for these emergencies, because you're already ready. You've already figured it all out, or you at least know where to start looking for the issues to figure out what the solutions need to be. Does that make sense? Hopefully. All right. One more. Are you ready? Let me bring this up. Yep, there we go. Okay, I can hear you. So I hear some of you sighing. I hear it. I hear it right now. I knew you would. Okay, so here's the thing. I know that this has kind of become. Oh, see, I need to make myself smaller again. Here, we'll just leave it with this for a second. I know that this has kind of become an old chestnut now and everything else, but there is some truth behind this, right? So here, let's talk about this one. What that really means, okay? The under promise, over deliver thing, okay? Really at the core of it for us means we're managing people's expectations, right? Because that is another way for a very good project to go horribly wrong, right? If you and your team have put together the best solution, right, and you've executed it flawlessly, and it gets through QA and all that, and then it gets to UAT and all you're hearing is unhappiness, generally that's because either the wrong problem was solved or the expectations were set way higher than what you were going to be able to reasonably create. So that's where you want to get into this under-promising thing. Everybody wants the moon and stars. Everybody wants a single click solution to their problems, right? We all want that one pill that we can take that makes us tall, thin, blonde, and rich, right? That's just who we are as human beings. So it's important to acknowledge that and to manage the expectations and continue to do that as you go through your process. Make sure that as people's, dreams are starting to run ahead of the project, that you just gently bring them back and go, yes, I would very much like to have that unicorn pet in the backyard too, but here's where we're going to be for the time being. We're going to solve these problems. This is how it's going to benefit you, and keep wrapping your project in those expectations so that the expectations and your delivery line up. Then, if you've got the time, or you are able to work it into the project, maybe you can push what you deliver just a little bit above. This is always okay. This is always okay. This is not. That's basically what this comes down to. If you give them what you promised, and they were okay with it, they were on board, and they feel like it meets their needs, they're happy. If you give them a little bit more, they're delighted. If you give them anything less, even this much, if you're really that close, doesn't matter. Anything from here down is trouble. So that's why that phrase, okay, that I know people roll their eyes at, but this phrase matters because of that. So you want to make sure that you are delivering to your timeline, you're managing the expectations, that you are responding and communicating proactively and responsively throughout the project to everybody all throughout the project, so everybody's on board. The worst thing that people can do with a really good project is be rolling along and forget to update the stakeholders and the users and whoever else is involved with it down the line, because then they think you've forgotten about it or you've forgotten about them. So you want to be proactive about that kind of stuff. You want to be consistent. You want to be predictable. You want to make sure, and that's really the core of everything that we're talking about here, you want to make sure that people see you as somebody that they can count on all the time. You are a rock in a chaotic world, and you are going to be that one touch point that they know that they can come, they can get a direct, honest answer, they can get the help that you can do for them. You can't solve all the problems in the world, you're not a magician, but again, if you've managed expectations, they're okay with that. And as long as you are being honest and genuine and consistent with them, that's going to be okay. And they're going to be very happy with it, because you will be that person that they can turn to when everything else is not working and know that it's going to be all right. And trust me, that is a great place for you to be. All of the people that you work with are going to be much easier to work with. And like I said, it's going to be awesome for your career. There's just no two ways about it. There's no way that if you do all these things and you have the skill set and you can do the job, that anything other than good stuff is going to come, because there's not enough of us out there. So if you're out there and you're doing a good job and you're doing it well and you're keeping all these things in mind, right? You're keeping the awareness and the responsiveness and the trust in mind, and you're working on that every day, and you're checking it with yourself to make sure that you are making it on those points, you're going to be golden. Okay? All right, that's what I've got for you this week. I will be back again next week, and we will get caught up on another topic. Just as a final reminder, we do still have the ebook out there, so if you would like to learn more about surveys, and hey, this is a good way to make sure that you're staying on top of everything with all the stuff we've talked about, you can go to thebazone.com/survey ebook, and you can get your copy there. All right. And as always, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We love the feedback that we're getting from you. And most of our best shows, frankly, come from your suggestions. So thank you for that. Feel free, like, follow, share the word about the show. We appreciate that too. And hope you're having a great summer. And we will see you next week. All right? Bye, everybody.